Time Station, who just loves it.
They love it. They really do.
I think everyone loves the program.
I love Shining Time Station.
If you grew up in the late 80s or early 90s, I still think we were a pretty lucky generation, because back then kids still had Shining Time Station. This series took the Thomas the Tank Engine and friend stories from Britain, placed them inside an American train station, and then it just took off. At its peak, as many as 7.5 million kids looked forward to it every week. But now we're old enough to understand that the people who made that gentle show also had lives of their own with some unexpected turns. Ringo Starr had just come out of rehab and then became Mr. Conductor. George Carlin turned out to be the guy connected to the 7 Dirty Words case. Nicole Rochelle, the little girl who played Tanya, was later handcuffed outside the Bill Cosby trial. Today we're going to look back at 11 faces that helped make up that childhood. Do not get off the train too early, because at the end of the video there are 5 little treasures just for real old school fans.
Yeah, we talk to.
Number 1, Didi Conn as Stacy Jones and Gracie Jones. Let's start with Didi Conn, the woman who kept Shining Time Station peaceful on screen while her real life was much bumpier than any kid could have imagined. Didi Conn was born in 1951 with the birth name Edith Bernstein. When Shining Time Station premiered in 1989, she was 38 years old. This year she is 75. Before PBS kids knew her as Stacy Jones, a whole lot of American men knew that face from 1978, when she played Frenchie in Grease. She did not come to Shining Time Station looking for her first taste of fame. She already had Grease 2 and then Benson. But the role of Stacy did something completely different. It gave Didi a second generation of viewers. People who remember Frenchie usually remember youth cars, rock and roll, and the years when Hollywood still knew how to make a movie theater shake. People who remember Stacy remember PBS Thomas and a little station where grown-ups still talk to kids with kindness. What is worth saying is that Stacy was not some quick passing role.
Shining Time Station.
When Shining Time Station changed its cast after the first season, Ringo Starr left, George Carlin came in the group of kids changed too, but Didi Conn stayed. Along with Brian O'Connor, she was one of the faces that kept the station from losing its thread. The role of Stacy even followed her into Thomas and the Magic Railroad in 2000, which means this character did not just live in a few old PBS episodes, it really stuck to her career. Didi also had a personal life that was nowhere near as neat as a children's show. She married Frank Kahn in 1975, then divorced in 1978. The same year, Grease put her on the American cultural map. In 1984, she married composer David Shire. Her son Daniel was diagnosed with autism when he was only 2 years old, and Didi spent many years taking care of him. Later, when she joined Dancing on Ice, she said it was a way to find herself again outside of being a mother. There is one detail that sounds very small, but I think any parent would understand the weight of it. Didi once broke down crying when Daniel said "I love you" to her for the first time at age 26. For many families, that is an everyday sentence. For her, it was more than 2 decades of waiting. Instead of turning herself into a victim, Didi used her family story to speak up for autism awareness. And today, at 75, she is still recognized by grown men as Stacy. Number 2, Brian O'Connor as Horace Schemer/Jebediah Schemer. If Shining Time Station had one grown-up that we found funny as kids, but also kind of wanted to avoid, it was definitely Schemer. Brian Edward O'Connor was born in 1953 in Lynnfield, Massachusetts. When Shining Time Station premiered in 1989, he was 36 years old. This year, he is 73. Brian did not walk into PBS as some guy who only knew how to wear weird clothes and act silly for kids to laugh at. He was a real comedian. He graduated from the University of Massachusetts in 1975, co-founded the comedy group Slap Happy, and that group performed at more than 200 colleges. Before Shining Time Station, he had appeared in National Lampoon's class of '86 Miami Vice and Beverly Hills Cop 2 in 1987. In the show, Brian played Horace Schemer, the owner of the station arcade, but the interesting part is not just that Schemer was greedy, obsessed with nickels, or always scheming. The interesting part is that the role almost had a completely different face. Jason Alexander, who later became George Costanza on Seinfeld, once auditioned for Schemer. This role became his biggest mark. When Shining Time Station changed after the first season, Ringo Starr left. George Carlin came in the group of kids changed too, but Brian and Didi Conn stayed. He appeared in about 64 episodes. And the Schemer character even got his own material, like Schemer Presents and Schemer Presents the World According to Me. Brian's private life was not loud in a tabloid kind of way, but it was not a straight line either. He was married to Jane Brucker, the actress who played Lisa Houseman in Dirty Dancing from 1986 to 1993. They had a daughter named Sally, born in 1989, the same year Shining Time Station premiered. Right when American kids were beginning to know him as Schemer, Brian was also stepping into fatherhood in real life. After the show, Hollywood did not turn him into a top-tier star. He kept acting, including the indie film Terrorists in 2004, but then chose a quieter path. Brian went back to school to become a guidance counselor for children and teenagers. In 2016, he was also singing and playing guitar in the independent band The 6,660s. The more I look back, the more I like the irony here. The man who played the most childish grown man at the station ended up spending part of his real life helping kids grow up. Pretty wonderful and interesting, right? Number 3, Ringo Starr as Mr. Conductor. There are not many images stranger than a Beatle who had just come out of rehab, then became the tiny conductor guiding PBS kids into the world of Thomas. Ringo Starr was born in 1940 in Liverpool with the real name Richard Starkey. When Shining Time Station premiered in 1989, he was 49 years old. This year, he is 86. Before American kids saw him in Mr. Conductor's little suit, he had already been the drummer of the Beatles, one of the 4 men who changed popular music. He did not need PBS to become famous. Honestly, the whole world had known his name for a very long time. But before Shining Time Station, Ringo already had his own connection to Thomas. He had narrated Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends in Britain, and then, when Thomas was brought to American audiences through Shining Time Station, he stepped fully onto the screen as Mr. Conductor. He was a tiny magical character who appeared to lead kids into the railway stories of Sodor. Ringo only stayed for the first season and the Christmas special, then left the show to return to music. After that, George Carlin replaced him playing a relative of Mr. Conductor. What still surprises me is that this tiny little role earned Ringo a Daytime Emmy nomination in 1989. Right before that time, Ringo's life had not been bright at all. After the Beatles, he struggled for many years with alcohol and drugs. He himself once said that much of the 70s and 80s was almost blurred out by alcohol, as if many years of his life had disappeared. He admitted that he had stopped being kind to himself and to other people. In 1988, Ringo and his wife Barbara Bach entered rehab in Tucson, Arizona. Some sources say the treatment lasted about 6 weeks. And just 1 year later, in 1989, kids turned on PBS and saw him as Mr. Conductor. When kids saw Mr. Conductor vanish in a puff of magic smoke, they had no idea that the man behind him was trying to pull himself out of years of self-destruction. Also in 1989, Ringo launched his first tour with Ringo Starr and his all-star band in Dallas. Today, at 86, Ringo is still making music, still performing, and still talks about sobriety as a gift. He holds on to day by day. Kids saw magic. Adults looking back see a comeback. And maybe that is why Ringo's Mr. Conductor still feels so warm after all these years. Number 4, George Carlin as Mr. Conductor. Only on American television could the man who once made the Supreme Court argue over 7 dirty words become Mr. Conductor for PBS kids. George Carlin was born in 1937 in New York. When he joined Shining Time Station in 1991, he was 54. If he were still alive this year, he would be 89. But George died in 2008 at age 71. Before a generation of kids knew him as Mr. Conductor, adults knew him as one of the sharpest, most dangerous, and most defiant stand-up comedians in America. Carlin was not the kind of comedian who just told stories for fun. He used the stage like a hammer. His routine 7 words, "You can never say on television," got him arrested in 1972. Later, the recording "Filthy Words" was played on the radio and led to the 1978 case FCC versus Pacifica Foundation, a Supreme Court case that shaped the way America controlled indecent content on radio and television. In other words, this was a man who had stood right in the middle of the battle over what was allowed to be said on TV. And yet, just over a decade later, he appeared on PBS in a children's show about a station trains and Thomas. George replaced Ringo Starr starting in Season 2, continuing through Season 3 and the specials. In the show, he was a relative of Ringo's version of Mr. Conductor, a tiny magical character who led the kids into stories on Sodor. To adults, he was the Carlin from HBO. To children, he was Mr. Conductor. Carlin's life was not gentle. In 2004, he entered rehab for dependency on wine and Vicodin. His family life had plenty of cracks too. His wife Brenda died in 1997 from liver cancer. His daughter Kelly later said her father toured a lot and missed quite a few moments in her life, even though the love between father and daughter still ran deep. Then there was his heart disease. Carlin died on June 22, 2008, from heart failure only 1 week after his final performance in Las Vegas. After he died, the Mark Twain Prize was awarded to him, and HBO brought his life back through the documentary George Carlin's American Dream in 2022. But for Shining Time Station fans, his legacy has a different color. Adults remember him for the words you could not say on television. Kids remember him because he narrated Thomas with a voice that was strangely gentle. And both of those memories are George Carlin. Number 5, Leonard Jackson as Henry Harry Cupper. Leonard Jackson played the man who kept the tracks running at Shining Time Station, but near the end of his life, he faced one of the cruelest diseases when it comes to memory. He was born in 1928 in Jacksonville, Florida. When Shining Time Station premiered in 1989, Leonard was already 61. He died in 2013 at age 85. If he were still alive this year, he would be 98. Before PBS kids knew him as Harry Cupper, Leonard had already gone through a very long life in the business, the kind of acting life Hollywood needs but does not always name properly. When he was young, he served in the U.S. Navy during World War II, studied at Fisk University, and then moved into the New York stage world. After that came movies, television, and solid character actor roles. He appeared in Car Wash, The Brother, From Another Planet, The Color Purple, Sesame Street, and later had credits like Law and Order, Homicide, Life on the Street, and Conspiracy Theory in 1997. Leonard was not the kind of star standing in front of the poster. He was the kind of actor who stepped into a scene and made the world inside that scene feel heavier and more real. In Shining Time Station, he played Henry Harry Cupper, the station's locomotive engineer and head mechanic. Harry was Tanya and Cara's grandfather, and in the first season, he was one of the most important adults around Stacy, Matt, Tanya, and Mr. Conductor. This role was not the biggest role of Leonard's career, but it gave him a very special place in the memories of American children. For male viewers who are now over 45, Harry Cupper is the kind of grown-up that old children's television used to show us, experienced serious, not flashy, not needing to say much, but once he was there, you felt safe. Leonard did not have any big public scandal to bring up. His story was quieter, and maybe that is why it feels sadder. He lived with his wife, Ada Jackson, and died on December 22, 2013 in Manhattan after battling Alzheimer's disease. Number 6, Jason Woliner as Matthew Matt Jones. Jason Woliner was born in 1980 in the Bronx, New York. When Shining Time Station premiered in 1989, he was 9 years old. This year, Jason is 46. In the show, Jason played Matthew Matt Jones, Stacy Jones's nephew, Tanya Cupper's friend, and one of the kids who helped viewers step into the world of Shining Time Station in the first season. Matt was not the kind of character who made a lot of noise. He did not have magic like Mr. Conductor, he did not cause trouble like Schemer, and he was not an adult keeping order like Stacy. Matt was the kid standing in the middle of everything, listening to Thomas, watching the grown-ups, and learning little lessons along the way. To put it plainly, he was the version of so many kids sitting in front of the TV in 1989. Jason mainly appeared in Season 1, then came back in a few Season 2 episodes like Scare Dares and Field Day. But Jason's life afterward is where the real turn happened. He did not try to stretch out his child actor image. He moved behind the camera, and that was where his career really took off. Jason became a non-performing member of the comedy group Human Giant, working with names like Aziz Ansari, Rob Hubel, and Paul Scheer. After that, he directed or took part in comedy projects like Parks and Recreation, Nathan for You, The Last Man on Earth, What We Do, In the Shadows, and Eagle Heart. Then in 2020, Jason directed Borat's subsequent movie film. This was his feature film directing debut, and it was nothing like anything a Shining Time Station fan could have guessed while looking at Little Matt back in the day. The project was kept so secret that the original script did not even include the word Borat. Jason used the fake identity Chris dyed his hair blonde and played the director of a fake documentary to approach people who did not know they were stepping into Borat's world. The movie caused a huge controversy, especially the scene with Rudy Giuliani and Maria Bakalova in the hotel. And this was not just comedy on paper. While filming at a gun rally in Washington, Sacha Baron Cohen said someone pulled a gun, the crowd chased the film crew, and Jason also had to run from people with guns. From a safe PBS train station to a political satire with real risk that was a grown-up turn nobody saw coming. After Borat, Jason continued with Paul T. Goldman on Peacock, a project that took about 10 years to bring to the screen part documentary, part scripted, and part something that made viewers unsure whether they should laugh, be suspicious, or feel sorry for the central character. That is the kind of story very far from Shining Time Station, where the lessons were usually clear and clean. Jason does not have any major trustworthy personal scandal to bring up. What matters more is that he escaped the familiar trap of many child actors. He did not get stuck as Matt. He went around to the other side of the camera, learned how to control chaos, and turned real-life discomfort into comedy. Number 7. Nicole Rochelle as Tanya Cupper. Not many child actors from Shining Time Station grew up and later got handcuffed outside the Bill Cosby trial. Nicole Rochelle did. Nicole Rochelle was born in 1978 in New Jersey, and in the early years of her career, she was often credited under the name Nicole Leach. When Shining Time Station premiered in 1989, she was 11 years old. This year, she is 48. She started performing professionally at around age 8 in New York with acting, singing, and dancing. Shining Time Station was one of her first major roles, and remember this detail? She entered the show when Ringo Starr was still part of the Shining Time world. In the series, Nicole played Tanya Cupper, Harry Cupper's granddaughter and Matt Jones's friend. Tanya was part of the station's first group of kids. After Shining Time Station, Nicole did not disappear. She kept appearing in The Cosby Show, The Babysitter's Club, Clarissa, Explains It All, NYPD, Blue Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, Third Watch, and Chappelle's Show. She also did not just follow the television path. Nicole graduated from Brown University with a degree in linguistic anthropology, culture, and communication, then built an international career in theater singing, jazz, blues, and performance. From 2006 to 2010, she toured as Josephine Baker, an artist Nicole herself saw as a model of art tied to activism. Then came April 9th, 2018, outside the Montgomery County Courthouse in Pennsylvania when Bill Cosby arrived for the retrial in the sexual assault case. Nicole appeared in a topless protest. Written on her body were the words, "Women's Lives Matter," and the names of women who had accused Cosby. She jumped over a barrier, moved toward Cosby, was stopped by police, handcuffed, and charged with disorderly conduct. This was not just an attention-grabbing stunt. Nicole had appeared on The Cosby Show when she was young, and she said she once saw Cosby as a father figure, an adult on set who made her laugh and gave her advice. When the allegations against him came out, she said she felt angry, sad, and betrayed. She also said the goal was not to attack Cosby, but to make him face the message she had brought. Today, Nicole still performs internationally, still sings jazz, blues, and rhythm and blues, and still stands on stages in many major cities. Tanya Cupper was once the gentle little girl in a station where every lesson was spoken in a soft voice. Nicole Rochelle grew up and chose a way of speaking that was not gentle at all, but it is hard to deny that she made people listen. Number 8, Erica Luttrell as Cara Cupper. You may have forgotten the name Cara Cupper, but if you ever played Apex Legends or watched Steven Universe with your kids, there is a good chance you kept hearing Erica Luttrell for years afterward. Erica Shukrani Luttrell was born in 1982 in Toronto, Canada. When she joined Shining Time Station in Season 2 in 1991, she was 9 years old. This year, she is 44. Erica was born into a family with a Tanzanian mother and an American father, and she is the youngest of 4 sisters. Even her middle name, Shukrani, means to give thanks, a small detail that fits an actress whose career has lasted longer than many people realize. Erica started working in front of the camera very early, appearing in commercials when she was only 2 years old. Her first major television role came at age 9, and that was Shining Time Station. In the show, Erica played Cara Cupper, Harry Cupper's granddaughter Tanya's cousin and part of the later group of kids along with Dan and Becky. Cara appeared in Season 2, Season 3, and the family specials when the series had already moved into the George Carlin era after Ringo Starr as Mr. Conductor. After Shining Time Station, Erica did not fall out of the industry like many other child actors. She voiced Keisha Franklin in the Magic School Bus, then kept appearing in the new ghostwriter Mysteries Mayans, Wenempsi 911, David Makes Man, SEAL Team Westworld, and Salvation. But her biggest turn was in voice acting. Erica is Sapphire and Pad Paradsha in Steven Universe, Emily Caldwin in Dishonored 2 Cheetah in Injustice 2, Shuri in Marvel's Avengers, Zoe in Horizon Forbidden West, and especially Bangalore in Apex Legends. There is no major trustworthy scandal around Erica. Her public-private life is pretty quiet, and she married Jessica Mallers in 2019. What is more worth saying is that she survived in the business from being a child actress on PBS to becoming a voice present in modern games, animation, and television. Number 9, Tom Jackson as Billy Two Feathers / William Two Feathers. Tom Jackson was born in 1948 at One Arrow First Nation, Saskatchewan, Canada. When he joined Shining Time Station in 1991, he was 43 years old. This year, he is 78. His mother was Cree. His father was English, and his youth was nothing like a television story neatly prepared for family audiences. Tom moved to Alberta when he was 7, then to Winnipeg when he was 14. Only about a year later, he dropped out of school, left home, and lived for many years on the streets of Winnipeg. Some sources say that period lasted about 7 years. That was not the kind of hardship you tell just to make a story look good. That was the kind of thing that could crush a man before he even had time to become an adult. In Shining Time Station, Tom played Billy Two Feathers, the railway engineer of the Indian Valley Railroad, the driver of Rainbow Sun, and also the station's handyman. He appeared from 1991 to 1995 in Season 2, Season 3, and the family specials. Billy stepped into the space Harry Cupper left behind, but not just to replace a mechanic. He brought in a different kind of grown-up, calm, skilled, culturally rooted, and steady enough for the kids to believe the station would still be okay. Tom was not just Billy. Around that same time, he also stood out as Peter Kennedy in North of 60 from 1992 to 1997. Later, he appeared in Star Trek, The Next Generation Law and Order Criminal Intent Outlander Cold Pursuit, and Sullivan's Crossing. But for Tom, acting and music were never separate from helping other people. He connected his name with the Huron Carol benefit concerts for food banks, homeless people, and community relief. His projects have been credited with generating more than 250 million Canadian dollars in cash and in-kind value for food banks and disaster relief. In 1997, he led Red River Relief, raising $3 million for the Red Cross. After the suicide death of his castmate Mervyn Good Eagle, Tom began the Dreamcatcher Tour to raise awareness about suicide, especially among Indigenous youth. Today at 78, Tom Jackson is still an actor, singer, activist, officer of the Order of Canada, and recipient of the Governor General's Performing Arts Award. Billy Two Feathers fixed machinery at the station. Tom Jackson, in real life, fixed things much harder than that hunger, despair loss, and even people who had been left behind on the margins. Number 10, Ari Magdar as Daniel Dan Jones. Ari Joseph Magdar was born in 1983 in Toronto, Canada. When he joined Shining Time Station in Season 2 in 1991, he was 8 years old. Ari died in 2012 in Los Angeles when he was only 28, just a few days before his 29th birthday. In the show, Ari played Daniel Dan Jones, Stacy Jones's nephew, and Matt Jones's cousin. Dan belonged to the station's second generation of kids, along with Cara Cupper and Becky. This was the stage when Shining Time Station had already changed its rhythm after the first season. George Carlin replaced Ringo Starr as Mr. Conductor. Tom Jackson entered as Billy Two Feathers, and Dan became one of the young faces who helped little viewers continue to have someone to look toward. Dan was not a loud character, and he was a very PBS kind of kid, curious, easy to like standing among strange grown-ups, small lessons, and Thomas stories. Ari played Dan in Season 2, Season 3, and the first two family specials in early 1995. For fans of the later period, Dan was an essential part of the station memory. After Shining Time Station, Ari had a few more roles, but his career was very short. He appeared in Book Mice Woman, On the Run, the Laurentia Bembenek story E.N.G. Tales, From the Crypt Keeper Rugged Gold, and then Don't Look Back in 1996. After that, Ari's name gradually moved away from the screen. The saddest thing is that there was no big scandal to explain it, no loud collapse for the press to hold on to. Ari died in his sleep from complications of pneumonia on April 27, 2012. That was it. A child actor who had once been part of a PBS childhood, and then his life ended at 28. Number 11, Danielle Marcoux as Becky. And then there is Danielle Marcoux, a face that reminds us that sometimes the biggest mystery after a childhood show is not a scandal, but a person quietly stepping out of the light. Danielle Marcoux was born in 1983 in the United States. When she appeared in Shining Time Station around season 2 in 1991, she was 8 years old. This year she is 43. Danielle is credited as a former American child actress, best known for playing Becky in Shining Time Station. Besides this series, her public credits also include ABC after-school specials and Working It Out. In the show, Becky is a friend of Dan Jones and Cara, part of the station's second generation of kids. She appeared when Shining Time Station had already changed its rhythm. George Carlin had replaced Ringo Starr as Mr. Conductor, Tom Jackson had joined as Billy Two Feathers, and Dan, Cara, and Becky became the new young faces for little viewers to follow. If Dan connected back to Stacy and Cara connected to the Cupper family, then Becky helped the world around the station feel wider, as if Shining Time was not just a few people living in one small corner of PBS. Becky was first a recurring character in Season 2, then became main cast in Season 3 and the family specials. She's remembered as a kind, friendly, caring girl who had a father liked collecting pin-on buttons and often appeared in very everyday station stories. The episode Oh What a Tangled Web is a good example. Dan and Cara pretend to have jobs at the station so Becky can throw a party, and then everything gets tangled up with J.B. King. And Becky Makes a Wish is the episode to remember if you want to see this character get a central moment when Becky's wish leads to all kinds of strange things at Shining Time. Back then she was Becky at the station. Now she is a name that almost only lives in fans' memories. But if you have come this far with us, Shining Time Station still has more stories left. After those faces, there are still 5 little treasures that only real old fans will truly appreciate. So we have gone through the faces of Shining Time Station. But before leaving the station, I want to open a few more small memory drawers for those who really grew up with this series. First thing, Shining Time Station was not just an American show where Thomas showed up. It was built around footage from Britain's Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, which premiered in 1984. Starting in 1989, PBS packaged those short Thomas stories inside an American train station with Stacy Schemer and Mr. Conductor. Because of that, many American kids came to know Thomas not through the original British version, but through Shining Time. Second thing, the show's cast was much bigger than our childhood memory realizes. When you were little, you only saw the people at the station. Growing up, you realized that place once had a Beatle, a stand-up legend Frenchie from Grease, an actor from The Color Purple Tom Jackson from Canadian television, and even Jason Woliner, the little boy who would later go on to direct Borat. Then there was Schemer. Brian O'Connor did not just perform that character, he improvised a lot, came up with the curly lock of hair, the obsession with nickels, and helped create Schemer's loud look and very specific over-the-top style. With George Carlin, the detail I like most is that he once wrote that he enjoyed it when little kids recognized him in public as Mr. Conductor. A man famous for words you could not say on TV felt happy being remembered as the voice telling Thomas stories. And the final treasure, Thomas did not just sell toys. When diesel engines gradually replaced steam trains in Britain after 1945, Reverend W. Audrey's stories helped children keep loving steam engines. Today, with more than 100 preserved railway lines in Britain, I like to think Thomas is still pulling the past around for one more ride. I wish I could be little again, just one more time, sitting in front of the old TV, hearing the train whistle sound, and returning to Shining Time Station like in the old days. But life has no Mr. Conductor to blow a whistle and take us backward through time. All we can do is sit here, look back at the faces that once made our childhood warmer, and realize that time carried each person in a very different direction. Some people are still standing on stage, some people stepped away from the lights, some people left too soon, and some people just through one small role in an old train station still make us remember that we were once easy to believe, easy to make happy, and still had so many years ahead. What about you? What do you remember most about Shining Time Station, Stacy Schemer, Mr. Conductor Thomas, or just the feeling of watching a show that was so slow and so gentle? Leave your memory below. And remember to subscribe to Weird Movie Secrets, because coming up, we still have many more time-traveling train rides back to childhood.